Thank you very much, guys. And moving on forward, we have our next session starting up. It is moving towards solution documentation by Abhijit. Abhijit works with Avaya Pune, and so he'll be proceeding with his session. Add whatever you feel, however your experience was, and share your experiences with us, and if there is any improvement that we should be doing, so that can be done in our upcoming conference. So thank you once again.
Hello. Session. Good afternoon, everybody, and I welcome all of you to this session. Now, this session is something coming out from my own experience from working on solutions for the last 2 years. I divided the session into 2 parts. Charge. Yeah. Charge. So, this is my own understanding how a writer has to go about when you're working on solution documentation. And I think personally that if you don't understand the business, will not be in a position to give full justice to the solution documentation. And that for that reason, I divided this session into 2 parts. The first part I'll be talking about from the organizations part or the business part, and the second part I'm going to talk about the documentation side of that. Okay. So a question to you, all of you. First, anybody has worked on solution documentation? I know many of you are actually working on that. But can anybody explain to me what is a solution documentation, or what is a solution basically? Right, and what is a solution? A response to a problem. Yeah. Addresses a problem. Okay. So basically what a solution, it talks about a mix of a product or services, and first of all it needs to be addressing some requirement of a client. Second is a solution is provided to address the client's specific business problems. So when you are saying a problem, it's basically a requirement that a client has got, and it can be a customized requirement altogether. So in the next slides, we'll be saying about that thing, what I mean by customization. A question for all of you. Identify the companies. Which are product-based companies? Cisco. So which are service-based companies? And which are solution-based companies? How do you differentiate this now? When you get the reply as product-based or service-based or solution-based, what was the characteristic that made the differentiation? Yes, Eddie.
A solution is a bundled offering where you have product companies that only sell devices, companies that sell solutions sell devices and software bundled together to address.
Right. So most all of these companies or other companies which are into, actually if you look at the business prospectus of your company now, most of all the companies have moved away from being product or service based company to solution based companies. If I talk about my own company, which was a product based company till last 2 years, they are talking about having 40% of the revenue this year only from providing solutions. If Avaya is talking about that thing, it basically means Genesys is talking and Cisco is also talking because they are competitors. When you talk about companies like Cybergen, Persistent, which are only into service based companies, okay. What do you mean by service-based company? They take a project, complete that project and hand it over. But if you look from another angle, both these companies now talk about getting the entire development done here, getting the entire testing done here, and also providing a documentation. That is also a type of solution because it's an end-to-end for the customer. Now let's see what do we mean by solution-oriented business. Now there are 2 things. If we talk about a solution, there has to be 2 things. The first thing is we should have a customer who wants his requirement fulfilled. And there should be an organization or a company which can fulfill that requirement. Now this is a business, one of the best model that can be explained. Are we starting from scratch for being solution oriented? Definitely not. So on the x-axis we are seeing how many customers we have reached or what is our market share of each company. On the y-axis we can see what is the satisfaction level of the customers. So when we see of a company already into business of providing products or services, so the company has already some market share captured in the market. So they don't have to start from scratch. What they need to do is they have to identify potential customers who have got specific customized requirement. And so this market share keeps on increasing, but at the same time the companies keep on moving on satisfying individual requirement of customers. Yesterday I was at the Adobe booth, and now I have seen that pamphlet, and they are now offering the entire suite at $49.99 per month on a subscription basis. Up till now, if I am working as a freelancer, any freelancer here? And if I am working as a freelancer, okay, I need to buy the license of Adobe Suite, which costs in more than lakhs, for just to execute one project. But my requirement is just I need to use only RoboHelp or FrameMaker for a time frame of 1 month to complete one project. Why should I be paying more than 1 lakh for that? And due to that, the rate of piracy was increasing. Now with this type of solution, I can actually purchase that only for 1 month, complete a project, and that becomes a good thing for me also and the company which is offering that solution. So somebody has trapped that solution, somebody has thought about that solution, that the requirement is there in the market, and that is the reason they have come up with like that thing. Similar way, Visio or Photoshop, so Microsoft is also into that now. You can have that on a per month basis. Now this talks about the generations of the business models that companies have implemented in the market. The first one is from the manufacturing, engineering, or the old models where you're talking about a product has been developed and what is the interaction with the customer only at the tip. So I manufacture a product and I sell it to the customer. That is the only interaction between me and the customer. That's it. There are still many companies which are still working on that model. But many companies have moved out from this model to the customer-centric model. Now here we are saying, instead of the tip, we are seeing the basis of the pyramid being touching. So the interaction level has gone to that level. So when you're talking about Amazon or Tesco, so most of us, we are using Amazon services. We know Amazon does a lot of other services. It's not only what we buy at first time, we get a lot of other things through Avaya. So whenever the sales are there, their emails comes to us continuously. They remember our search strategy, based on that they recommend. So the interaction between the customer and the company is increasing. Whereas we are into the social media age now, where we are talking about companies like Facebook, Twitter. Now the symbiosis between this is so solid between the users and the company that the companies cannot exist without the users, and users cannot survive without the companies. So both have to work together towards that. And now why organizations are moving? Of course, they want to be more customer centric, move from product centric approach, competitive age, competitive advantage in the market, of course to maintain sustainable business. The main thing here is, if you have attended yesterday's first lecture from Rajiv, he has given an example of Nokia and BlackBerry. They are the market leaders but they didn't change with the time. They didn't change the trends, and that's the reason they are no more. Market share, Apple was the leading one, then came Samsung, and now in India, last week I was reading, Micromax has overtaken Samsung. So the market share keeps on changing because the solutions, what are you offering, keeps on changing. Of course, companies exist because they have to keep on investing, and then of course they have to always think about ROI. And increasing the customer base is very important. One thing to remember here is, when companies purchase other companies, the acquires and mergers and amalgamation takes place, it's not for the products, it's for the customer base. Now let's talk about the case study. The year is 1990. So at least when I started my career, not in technical writing. The first day in the company, I was told to fill in certain forms and all this thing. Then I was told, oh, you have to go to a particular bank, get your account open there. So I went to the bank. I was asked to fill in a form. I was asked that, oh, come after 4 days, bring all these document, submit this document. So I went to the bank again after 4 days. That person in the bank told me, oh, these 2 documents are missing. Get those. After 2 days again I went. He said, okay, everything is being done now. Your account will be in operation mode after 15 days. Come to today's era. What is happening? The day you join a company, the banking person is sitting along with his kit there itself. Your account gets open in next 24 hours. Does it stop there now? It does not. The minute you are into any organization, your account is open in the bank keeps on following you. Do you want a housing loan? Do you want a car loan? Do you want any types of loan? Do you want to open a demat account? Do you want to work with the share market? So this is something, the mechanism has changed completely. Earlier the banks were only the mode of operating for a saving bank or a current bank account. Now they are focusing on an end-to-end solution, whatever the requirement may be there for a user. So that's what is called a pull mechanism. Now we are not going to the bank. The banks are coming, or the banking industry is coming to us. So that was the first part, part A, when we are talking about business and why companies are moving to solutions. Now let us see from a technical writer's perspective exactly what is solution documentation and how to handle that thing. Okay. I have taken the example of what I worked in actually. Okay. Now there's a customer, and the requirement is that the customer want to set up a contact center. Now what is a contact center? And what is the difference between a call center and contact center? In simple terms, a call center is where only inbound calls are allowed. Whereas a contact center is something where you can have inbound, outbound, you can have mail, you can have chat, you can have video conferencing. So all types of facilities are being provided. Now if I want to set up a small contact center, just estimate what are the resources I might require. I might require place, that is the land, infrastructure, people, softwares, hardwares, and all these things. But if you take into consideration all these things, it might go into lakhs or crores. So do I have the mechanism, or do I have that advantage of setting up a contact center if I don't have that money? But then that is a requirement of a customer. And that's where Avaya came from. Recognizing just this is a requirement. Then why not create? The second part is a company's requirement. Now they are thinking of setting up a contact center where customers only plug and use the mechanism or use the infrastructure as a plug and play. The customers don't have to invest in anything. They just have to pay for usage. They just have to pay for the usage they are going to make of the contact center. Now this is the architecture. This will be blurred because there are so many other things on this. Okay, but from end user, it doesn't make any sense. He just want to set up a contact center. But from a company's perspective, it's going to be very complicated. And if you see this architecture, it's a 3-tier architecture where you're talking on the first level, the entire hardware and software sitting on the first layer. That is infrastructure. In the second layer, there's a cloud. Now it can be hosted in a company's environment, or the company may get in service providers in between. That might be a second level. And then we're talking about third level where only end users will be there. And all the devices, what we are seeing is the end user will only need to have their end devices. They'll just plug into the system and the system starts. Seems very simple. Okay. Now this, when we are talking about the infrastructure to the end point, this might be nearly 20 odd products combined together to form as a solution. Okay. And it looks like something like this. Don't go on for the years because I use it somewhere else. You can see product 1 to 9 and it can go to 20 products. You have got different versions, different service packs, different feature packs, and of course the release date for each one will be different. Now, if this is the thing, how as a writer you are going to handle these things? Any clues? Okay. You need to understand the basic difference between the normal product documentation that we do and the difference in the solution documentation. If you look at this product documentation, we talk about doing for individual products, and solution documentation we talk about doing end-to-end solution documentation. Product documentation, we talk about efforts which are already planned because we are in the cycle of DDLC where we try to match with SDLC. Okay? Most of the efforts in solution documentation are unplanned. Okay? Scope is already known. In solution documentation, the scope keeps on increasing as per the customer's requirement might change. Okay? You follow rules of SDLC and DDLC in product documentation. There is no product to be developed. So solution documentation starts where SDLC ends. Product documentation, we normally talk about SMEs which are from R&D and quality, that's the testing teams. There are no such teams here. The products are already ready. So you have to actually work with different teams who are going to be part of this. It can be interoperability teams, it can be services team, it can be the deployment teams for the solution, it can be the marketing team, it can be the sales teams. So you have to work with all these different teams. You have to work in product documentation. We always think of working within the organization, but when you talk about solution documentation, you have to work with internal, external. The external teams can be your business partners who are actually going to implement the systems. So you have to always give a thought to that also. Product documentation, very limited use of the content because each product is different. In solution documentation, as we are going to use a already established product, we are talking about nearly 80% of the content to be reused. Ownership, the issue of the ownership in product documentation, it always rests with the writers. We talk about the joint ownership. When you talk about the solution documentation, the writing team is not the one who is only responsible for ownership of the content, because we talk about the other teams who are also equally responsible, because in solution, if the documentation goes in RAID, the solution doesn't get released. A product might get released, but the solution doesn't get released. And of course, solution documentation, you have got certain other things. One of the main thing is product interoperability testing. Which product talks with which version is interoperability, working with other product. All these things has to be done. Involves third-party documentation. Many times the solutions are not provided by only one company. So if a customer's requirement is something to have 10 products together as a solution, and the company which is offering the solution has got only 8 products out of that, the company might tie up with some other company to get 2 products, but the documentation ownership or the documentation liability comes on this company which are take out of the requirement. So you have to go out of your company, work with the writing team of the other companies. Okay? You have to do all these things. And that's the reason you have to collaborate with writers from other companies, and it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job. Okay? In our company, we face something differently. We work with 3 different companies. The issue there, it was there. After a certain time, those companies were taken away, taken or purchased by Avaya, and the mentality of writers from that company was not to come to Avaya. So we face a lot of hindrances, not only about the documentation, even for getting the product information from that company. So all these things has to be taken into consideration when you're talking about working with different companies. So what are the challenges? Now this is a technical writer, poor fellow. Based on assumptions, somebody called an architect in a company comes up saying, oh, my company has got 100 products. Why not get 20 products together and sell it as a solution? It starts only with an assumption. There is no hard proven fact that yes, these things might work. Requirements document, there are no documents. What documents are available for the writers are individual product documentation, which never talks about a solution, which talk about how each product works on its own. So which component talks with each other? When you're talking about so many products to be bundled together, nobody in the beginning has an idea as to which product talk with each other. And the funny thing is, as the deadline moves ahead, the releases of different products also keeps on moving. So you have to keep on moving with each product's interoperability. Too many stakeholders. If we talk about one product having 5 stakeholders and 20 products, at least we'll have 50 stakeholders. So, and we have to try to satisfy all of these. Solution is always evolving, it is not a static. Whenever the customer sees a solution, newer idea keeps on trickling in, and the solution has to keep on matching all those things. A writer really has to move away from comfort zone. Okay? It's not the way we have been taught to keep documenting either in agile or lean. It's something else. We have to find our own way many times. Availability of resources. This is the most funny thing. Most of the companies work is that each writer is attached to a BU or writer is attached to a product. Who's going to do the solution documentation? You don't have separate teams which will work for solution documentation. Of course, you learn and train yourself, your own teams, and then get along. The first and foremost important thing to understand is we need to understand exactly what are we going to document and from where we are going to get the information. And documentation forms two parts. First is what comes from the development or the architects. So we have got PRDs, SRAD, overviews, test strategies, interoperability guides, and this is where we talk about technical writers actually working. Based on these documents and based on the systems that are already being done, we talk about creating a deployment guide, which is the most important guide, and administering guide. Solution requirements guide is required by the marketing and sales. Okay, and of course port matrix and so on. There can be so documentation has to take a call on what documents to be delivered. Now the actual strategy on ground zero, what needs to be done? The user analysis is very important. So when you saw that architecture, who is going to use which type of documentation? Are the end users going to do? Are there going to be service providers in between? Or the services team of the company is going to do? The user analysis is very critical because based on that, the writers has to take a call which information to include. Second is information analysis. When we say 80% of the content is going to be reused, we need to be very choosy as to what information need to be pulled in. The analysis is done, but then organization of that information in a particular flow has to be matched with what the solution requires. Before you actually begin, your entire blueprint should be ready and which should be approved by the stakeholders. It's very important. Entire process has to be documented, and of course, you need to take a high-level overview. My recommendation is get a high-level overview from two people. One is a product architect because he talks very good from the customer side. He is the best person to tell what is the requirement in the market. Second is test it from the team which is actually going to deploy because they are the people who will be talking about the limitations of the solution. And this both information is very important for a technical writer. Actually in work, use approved templates. First thing to understand, we talked about no specific writers are assigned. So writers are picked up randomly from different teams, okay, based on the skill sets and all this thing. And it's a teamwork, of course. So you need to have approved templates as to what need to be done. If your company doesn't have, for example, when you're talking about deployment guide, what all need to be in a part of a deployment guide, a template has to be done. It has to be actually get approved from all stakeholders. That works better. Reuse maximum content. Do not fall into the trap of writing. That's what we do as a writer. Do not fail. Try to reuse maximum content. Many times you have to push the other product writers to write in a way that helps you a lot. So you have to collaborate a lot. Work on information organization. As I said, we are reusing most of the information. So organization of the information is more important than writing the information. And of course, you have to collaborate and coordinate between the team and all other teams. You need to have a tracking mechanism. Just imagine thousands of emails flowing to you, and that's what happened in a solution. Because one solution can be sold in millions or billions. It's a huge. Solutions from companies are always going to be bigger. So just imagine the number of people involved in that. So you should have a tracking mechanism, because the blame game starts and finally it's the writing team which suffers in the end. So use a tracking mechanism, define and conduct reviews. So reviews has to be defined in advance and conducted as per schedules. Tabletop reviews, my recommendation is that's the way we are going. Instead of just relying on other types of reviews, tabletop reviews where all the teams are involved and all the sections and all these things are checked. Documentation sign off mandatory. As I said, till the time documentation is signed off, documentation is in red and the solution doesn't take off. At the same time, not all things can be tested from a writer's perspective, understand. The testing team might be, the testing or interoperability team might be testing, but not the writers cannot test all the things. There can be gaps in troubleshooting. This should be noted down. How are you going to deliver? Build a document library. So now what happens is, when we know 80% of the documentation we are going to reuse, why not provide just a high-level overview of the topic or a task that you are going to use, instead of providing the entire content from all the documents, and so that makes your document bulky, which is not required. So instead of delivering a PDF or something mechanism, why not create a document library where you are not only referencing but providing other documents also as a part of the delivery mechanism. You have to always think of considering multiple documents now, overview, administering, deployment, using and so on, depending on who the user is. And of course, create a central repository of solution documents. So what happens is all the stakeholders or anybody who wants to go to the solution documentation can actually go to that and take it. And all stakeholders, of course, this is the main and very difficult thing, because these are very high level people and mostly they are the people who do not agree to a lot of things. Is it the only writer's job? No. If you have got a managers, you have got a leads, they are supposed to take a lot of call on these things. You have to build a case for solution documentation. As I said, not all you don't have writers right from the scratch, because most of the writers are assigned to BUs or products. So it's a manager's job to take up this responsibility. Prove the advantages of creating a solution documentation, and of course, the BU, that's the BU, consider implication of such a change. Is it going to impact the product documentation? The manager has to think on this thing. So all the project planning and all this thing, the managers has to take it. Leave the writers to actually work on the documentation. Coordinate across internal, external teams. If only the writers keep on doing all this thing, they are not going to be in a position to complete a documentation. Reviews. So all these things which are required and which can be taken control of over by the manager or the lead should be done with the lead. And even organizations, if they are going for solution documentation, has to think on, the thinking has to change. The systems has to change. They have to standardize the processes in the documentation. For example, when you are talking about 20 products and only out of 20 products, 10 products are into a particular data framework, 5 products are into PDF. So you're using frame for that, things can't work. You cannot reuse the content. Just imagine the cost of converting that 5 products again when the product documentation is not going on that line. So all things has to be standardized by the organization, review system, and of course, organization has to always think about finances and budgets. And this is the last slide. I hope everybody knows the story of ant and the grasshopper. What is the end of the story? The grasshopper dies, right? But if you look from our scenario, so we have to support each other. Everybody has to support each other. As I said, we are talking about for a solution, at least having teams between 15 to 20 different teams working together to get the solution on the market. Okay? And we have to keep on supporting each other. There cannot be a blame game, because when you talk about 40% or 50% of the company's revenue coming from that, if something doesn't happen, it impacts everybody. Thanks.
Why don't you tell them about the ant and the grasshopper story, please?
Oh, you want me to tell it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a time to be funny, to partying and all this thing. They say, okay, but the winter is coming. The grasshopper says, okay, let's see in the winter what happens. Scenario 2, it's a winter, The ants are partying now. Grasshopper doesn't have anything to eat and finally dies.
So basically at that time the ants are busy working and they gather food for themselves, they save it for the winter, but the grasshopper is least bothered about it and he's in his own world. So don't party too much.
It's already been done yesterday.
Yeah, it's already been done yesterday. Anyway, thank you very much Abhijit for this wonderful presentation, and I hope from this we can learn that we should be developing more as a team player and we should be helping each other. Don't be selfish. And I know you create unique documents and you're very good at writing, so that's why we are over here. But try to help your colleagues, your peers as much as you can so that we can all establish together and become a better team. Okay? And as again, as on behalf of STC, as a token of appreciation, I'd like to present this momentum and certificate to Abhijit. Thank you very much. Okay guys, we have a tea break, so please be back on time and we can proceed from there. Yeah, and for the last session, as you know that we have some 5 different participants that will be coming, so it's going to be a very interesting session. So I look forward to seeing all of you all. I want maximum participation. Thank you.